are free and everything's fine. So, it's not the same boat. And the reason I say that is because we really need to have, I think, a lot more compassion for individuals out there that are not in the same boat as we are. And I see it all over right now. I see mainstream media attacking alternative media. I see politicians attacking each other. It's like, when are we done with that? When are we just kind of sick and tired of people attacking each other for their beliefs? I think it's time this country shifts. I think it's time we all step into our intuitive, higher wisdom self and start to look at what's working and what's not working and what we can do to improve it. If we start to do that, I believe we'll be much better off. So today, I'd like to take a few thoughts that I've had and maybe give them to you and help you to stay empowered today. Stay in your power. I have a book that I wrote. It's called The Courage to Change Everything. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Courage to Change Everything. And what timing for that? I couldn't have asked for a better time for that book to come out, because it is a time to change everything. And if you think we're going back to the new normal or the old normal, you're not. There is something new that's evolving. We're not going to go back. Now, the question is, are we going to improve as a country and as a nation? I believe we are. A lot of people don't, though. A lot of people think we're going to lose freedoms. Right now, I know Google is censoring a lot of important information from doctors, from people that have been on the front lines and have some research that they want to share, and their videos are being taken down. When that happens, I think we all ask, what country are we living in? And who gave Google or Facebook or anybody the right to take down videos that are from medical doctors giving alternative points of view? I just think that's absolutely wrong. I bet you agree with me. So, we can't focus on what we can't control. For me, I'm committed to doing one thing, and that is finding the truth and expressing the truth and sharing the truth. And I encourage you to do the same, because that's what we can all do. If you have a video that comes into your world and you think it's powerful and it really shares a truth and it will empower people, I encourage you to share it and put it out there. If you have an article, I had one this morning that came into my inbox, and it was very powerful, stating some common sense principles. I thought, I'm going to share this with a bunch of my friends, and I did. We're all in the same storm, but again, everybody's not in the same boat. Even when I send out that email this morning, I wonder I don't send it out to offend people. I send it out to enlighten people, to help people to have a different point of view. But I do know this. A lot of times when I've sent out stuff here recently, maybe you've experienced this, it comes back and people attack it, and they're upset, right? So, but that's okay. Again, everybody's got their point of view. And for us, I think we need to step into our courage. That's what I'm doing. I hope you'll follow suit. So if you need to sign petitions now to get your point across, you want, let's say a governor removed because of what they've been doing, encourage you to do that. If you got a governor that's done a great job, hey, go out and give them some accolades too. If you got people on the news media that are doing a terrible job and you're just tired of fake news and fake stories, hey, let them know about that, because that's how we change. I read recently, it only takes about 3.5% of us. Actually, it wasn't a read. It was Michael Douglas in a video he's got out there talking about if 3.5% of us can get on board with the changes we want to see, that the rest of the people will follow that. It doesn't take a whole bunch of people to really make a social shift and social change right now. So I think we need to think about that. All right. Well, listen, today is the day to take your life to new heights. Wow. What if that were true? What if it was a time to make some new choices? A time to maybe renew yourself, time to let go of the past and things that have happened in the past. I think that piece in alone is so important to us right now. A lot of people still believe that they're going to come out of this isolation and everything's going to be the same. Past is gone. What we're doing is we're creating either a dark future or a bright future. And it's not going to be dependent on the government. It's not going to be dependent on something, people, places, or things outside of yourself. It's going to be determined by what you do and the actions you take. And, you know, what I've been noticing is, and you probably have too, a lot of people that are in fear. But here's what I get. People that are in fear, you know, fear, an acronym for that is false evidence appearing real. So I'm thinking false evidence appearing real. What are people wearing these masks about, right? Okay. Now, some people are out there because they really believe it'll help people. And some people are out there really believing it's hurting them to wear these things. So who's right? Right? Who's right? Well, you know, right falls on the side of truth, and truth for you. And, you know, the truth is I have friends that are very susceptible to getting ill. And for them, it's right to wear a mask. And it's right for them to isolate. I've got other friends that are healthy, that are vital, that are out there. And for their athletes and they're out there riding their bikes and running and jogging. For them, that's right. But what's the truth for you? That's really what we have to do. And how do we get to that? We have to let go of our limitations and on what we believe. So if you're getting in your inbox or on Facebook or in social media, you're getting something that really triggers you, I really invite you to look at that, to be able to make some changes within your own thinking, so that you get to step into your own power, your own passion, and understand what's triggering you, what's not triggering you. And why would that be important? Well, it's important if you want to have peace in your mind. If you want to have a little peace, a little understanding, a little love in yourself, you know, that's why that's important. So I'm hoping you'll take that to heart. You know, imagine if you could, like right now, really start over. What changes would you make? You know, how would you remake your life? Well, now's the time to really answer those questions. And if you dare to play bigger, if you dare to come out, to be more courageous, to connect yourself with your inner power, that inner truth, that inner wisdom, if you dare to do that, this is a great time to do that. You know, we're all here, and I believe we're here to evolve our consciousness, to evolve our presence, to evolve our compassion, to evolve our wisdom. And if we're either doing it or we're not, we're either taking steps to do that or not. When the pressure's on like this, you really get to see how you show up. And if you don't like how you're showing up, or if you'd like to improve how you show up, the first thing you have to do is acknowledge it. I don't like this, or this is where I want to improve, right? Makes sense, common sense. And then after you do that, you've got to take some specific actions to get you to the next level. So how about try taking on a new point of view, like a beginner's point of view? Like, what if somebody said something to you, instead of you reacting, you said to yourself, interesting point of view. I wonder what that person would have to believe in order to speak to me that way or give me that information. Maybe you start to delve more into the psyche, the mind of the other individual, or even in your own psyche and mind, and start to understand that the mind is the cause of your bondage and the mind is the cause of your liberation. So if you're tuning into your mind and you're starting to maybe remold your thinking and become all you were meant to be, that's kind of an interesting place to be. How would you like to do that? I think most people would. I think it is time to increase our presence, our understanding, our wisdom, and be able to step into that. So that's my hit. Listen, I'm going to introduce my guest. I've got a guest coming on right now, and She is an individual who has figured out some pieces that I'm talking about right now.
Oh,
Her name is
hello.
Mary Ann Boehm, and
And
she's a PR professional, communication specialist, intuitive advocate who has interviewed some of the most gifted intuitives in the world. She's also interviewed top scientists, researchers, and some even the Catholic Archbishop regarding the topic of intuition. And she shares those findings with a new book that she's written. It's called The Gift Within. So, Mary Ann, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Mary Ann, are you there? Hello, Mary Ann.
oh, now I can hear you.
Okay, well, you're live. We are streaming live right now, so you are live. I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. I was actually told to go to a Zoom link first. So fortunately, you'd sent me this other link, so I was
Yeah,
waiting.
well, we're live here in studio. We're broadcasting to our audience right now. So welcome to the show. It's great to have you. And, I understand that you're a PR professional, but also an intuitive advocate, and that many of your friends and associates are highly gifted intuitives, psychics, mediums. How did you get so close to so many gifted intuitives?
Well, several years ago, before the year 2000, I had to do a press conference for a client in New York City regarding a clock, a digital clock he was erecting to count down the days and minutes to the year 2000. And I decided to do a press conference and invite 24 highly gifted psychics and mediums to come meet with journalists. And 75 media showed up. They could each take 2 minutes with each gifted person. I sat them speed dating style at different tables in a restaurant. And 75 journalists showed up, and it generated tremendous press. I mean, many people were scared, if you remember, of the year 2000. Y2K was so spooky. They thought the world would end.
Yeah.
So a lot of media, including the Wall Street Journal, CBS Evening News, of course, Inside Edition, Entertainment Tonight, and those types. But the reason I mentioned it was, yes, it was a big professional success, but I ended up becoming very close friends, and still am, with a number of these highly gifted in psychics and mediums. And so I have been for years. And that's how I started to write the book. As a communicator, as are you, it frustrated me how they were misperceived by the media and by general public as, oh, that they're psychic, they have to be fakes, they have to be soothsayers or charlatans. And in fact, many of these folk were born that way, and many struggled as children with these gifts. Some were bullied. So I started to write their stories. And in my book, I have 33 profile chapters about these 33 gifted people, mostly from the US, but also from as far away as Australia, India, Berlin, England. And their stories are quite different and quite interesting. But my book, The Gift Within Us, is not just about these folk. I have chapters where I interview scientists who are studying intuitive ability, like Dr. Dean Raid and Dr. Gary Schwartz. I have a chapter about how people with these gifts have been treated throughout history. At one time, they were revered by kings. At other times, they were persecuted. So the book is much more all-encompassing than just their stories. And finally, the message of the book is, we're not all psychic and gifted to that degree, but you write a lot about success. You talk about, courage. And one thing that a lot of us don't understand is that we have access to this amazing brilliance, which is, I guess, for lack of a better word, I call it the powers that be. It's I have wonderful colleagues on this plane, but also on the other plane, and their wisdom is we have access to this if only we would just listen to our inner voice.
I love that. I love that. I want to dive into that. By the way, is there any chance you could turn your video on?
I have tried, and let me see now that you have me on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like that's working. Okay. Well, not sure what happened there. Probably shouldn't ask Mary Ann to do that. Oh, well, I'm sure she'll be right back. So we're talking about intuition, and we're talking about taking a deep dive. It's a subject that's close to my heart. So, Mary Ann, as far, I guess you're not going to be able to turn that video on. That's okay. Are you there still? Okay. I'm not sure what happened to Marianne there, but anyway, okay. So intuition. So how do we develop intuition? Well, intuition is when we're tapping into the soul, into the superconscious mind, right? Another word for it is a gut feeling. Another word for it is your inner wisdom or inner child or inner, it's that place where we tune into. I call it the superconscious mind. So you tune into that, which is really the soul. And once you're into that, into the superconscious mind, what happens is, well, intuition, yeah, for most people is undeveloped. They might have 20% of the time they use their intuition, or that it actually is right on. 80% of the time it's not. But you can develop it over time. You can increase your wisdom by a couple techniques. Leonardo da Vinci, you've heard me say this a million times, he said that isolation is the price of greatness. Yeah. So, oh, there she is. Okay, good. So
Mysterious.
isolation is the price of greatness, and it's one of the ways that we tune into our intuition. As we still our mind, we tune in, we get quiet, and we start to hear that inner voice. So again, intuition, for most people is undeveloped, but we can develop it. And when intuition is fully developed, it actually, every choice you're making is the right choice for you. So that's what we want to do. We want to tune into that intuition. So I was just talking about developing intuition, Marianne. I'm glad I can see you now. That's awesome. Great. Yay. And you adjust your camera a little over there so that I can see fully of you. There you go. There you go. Perfect. Okay. What's your recommendation for people to develop their intuition, Marianne?
It's extremely simple, but it's something that many of us can't do because it involves taking your ego down a couple of pegs, being humble, and just listening. For many of us, that's almost impossible, especially in today's world with reality TV and everything. It's all about us. And the one thing that I've learned from even the very gifted people is you need to let those voices come in. And you need to be able to, we're getting intuition and inspiration every day, all day. Yeah. Some of these brilliant thoughts that come to us, or we've all had that experience of a gut feeling, that's really important to pay attention to those feelings. And also, if you're having a dilemma or an issue, or I have a friend who's making a decision on, she lives in India, she's in the book, has to leave India because of the virus. Anyone who's not from there has to go. And we were talking yesterday, and she said, I keep getting this strong feeling I should move to Bali in Indonesia. So she's going to move to Bali. So right. She asked and asked for some guidance. She could literally go anywhere in the world, but she's getting a strong pull to go there. And with business decisions, with anything you're facing, you'll get that gut feeling. When you meet somebody and it's just not a good fit, or maybe a deal isn't a good deal to do. We've all experienced it. What I'm proposing in the Gift Within Us book is that we just kind of develop that muscle just a little bit more and listen. But it does require that we have to understand that this is inspiration. I don't even use the word idea anymore. When I have a really good thought, a lot of times I recognize that some of that is inspired. Now, do I have my own thoughts too? Yes, of course. But there are many times that you'll have a feeling like, well, it just came to me. I just had this idea, recognize that it works both ways. You don't just always have to be receiving. You can also ask, which way should I go on this? And you will get direction. And they're very smart. They're much wiser than we are. And I say I don't know what exactly. To me, it's a collective of perhaps, the universe, God, or greater self, higher self, etc. It could be guides, angels, whatever you want to call it. It's just that there are entities with really brilliant insights that we can share. We just have to understand that it's there for us. It's not silly.
Well, and I think, I think you touched on this, but as I was saying, when we can tap into our own soul, the superconscious mind of the soul, we're getting downloads, we're getting information from the soul. Now, others, like you're suggesting, you can tune into when you raise your frequency or vibration, you can tap into other people in the astral and other entities or people that are up there, guides or whatever you want to call them, that you can also tune into to guide you. I love Napoleon Hill when he wrote his book back in 1924, Think and Grow Rich. He created a mastermind group, and these are all people that had already left the planet. In his book Laws of Success, which is a very spiritual book, he talks about how he would have this meeting with this group time and time again every day, or he had, and eventually they start appearing to him in the flesh. So yeah, this is real. This does happen. There's a lot of documentation about it. You write about the new spirituality. Can you explain what that is and how it differs from traditional spirituality? And the reason I asked that, I was just reading this morning that we've gone in the last 5 years up to about 27% of the population here in the United States really believes in in the new spirituality, not the religion, not that type of thing. How do you define that?
Well, basically, you are aware of Pew Research, PEW. They weigh in on a lot of important topics. Pew Research, they found that the fastest growing group of individuals identify as what's called spiritual, but not religious. In other words, they've turned away from traditional religion, I guess, because of the sex scandals in the church and all of these things, but they're still yearning for that spiritual connection. They just are not sure how to get it. And that's also one of the main messages of this book. Again, it's when I say spiritual or divine guidance, I'm not talking about religion. This transcends religion. I don't care if you're very religious. I don't care what religion you are, or if you're not religious at all. We have access to this divine wisdom, all of us equally. And I think that really people have to understand you don't have to do anything fancy to access it. I'm a very bad meditator because I'm a white knuckler. So I joke sometimes I feel they have to bang me over the head with a rubber mallet, but I've learned to kind of listen when I get these insights. And you really don't have to be good at any one thing. I mean, I joke that if I had to hold crystals and focus on my chakras, that I could never have written this book. However, I'm not putting those things down. I mean, I think there's value to them. But a lot of people feel you have to master all of those things in order to develop it. It's right there. It's just at our fingertips. So people need to understand that. But that's what the new spirituality is.
Good. Well, in your book, you have interviewed a whole bunch of gifted intuitives, and I know this. Success leaves clues, and if we want to learn something, we want to experience it, we want to grow it in our life, we really need to tune into the people that have already mastered it and be able to listen to them and understand. So these intuitives came from around the world. What is it that they had in common? What is it, that common thread that seemed to go throughout the book with the intuitives?
I think humility and trust. Some tried to push this insight away. Some were closeted till later in their life. They became a real estate agent or whatever. But ultimately, they recognized the value of it. And also, it's just very powerful for them. They have this gift in spades. That's why I call this book The Gift Within Us, because we all can access to some degree this wisdom. But these people, in order to develop their gift, they had to kind of give it up and just allow that brilliance to come through them and trust in that.
That's good. This morning, right before meditation, I had this insight. I went from a place of sitting in my meditation chair to being an observer outside of creation before I was born, and outside of the creative process. I know you've had memories like that. I know you've tuned into places like that, memories of heaven before you were born. What is that? What's going on when we're doing that, do you think?
I think that I thought it was just a dream that I had as a child, but it just persisted. And I guess it's kind of a precognitive awareness before I was born. I just remember being in this, what was like a giant airplane hangar, in a line of little beings, little toddlers almost, walking with a tall being that was taking them forward. And in the background was this gorgeous, brilliant white light, super bright. And I was very well aware that my loved ones were back in that light, and that I was going on a journey, an adventure, kind of like a kid going on the first day of school. And I was excited, a little nervous, but that's what happened to me. And I recognize over the years that I've learned that some people do have these memories before they're born, anticipating that they're coming in. When I got to the front of the line, there, it sounds ridiculous, but there was this huge, long, translucent slide, and each tall being would take the little being and put it on the slide, and you'd go down. The next memory I have, I was laying in a stroller in the summer. I was born in June, so I don't know what age I was, looking up at my mother's beautiful face and the clouds in the sky above her, and I was very content. So go figure. I don't know. When we're humans, we're kind of wiped clean of all this memory, but sometimes things sneak in.
Well, you know what I love about the book and I love about you is that we're in a time where people really, if you're thinking the same way you've been thinking, your greatest thinking has got you right where you are. You're not going to be able to outthink where you are right now. So
Yeah.
this is a time to really to tune into that intuition, to follow it, and to start to take your life into a new direction. What if you opened up and said, you know what? I know this little, I know just a little bit about the whole creation, the whole universe. What if this is the time that you said, let's open the door. Let me open the door to something new. And I believe if you do that, one of the ways you can do that is you can get the book, The Gift Within Us, because I think that book will help you to allow yourself to look at things that are way outside your comfort zone, and that's okay. But why not explore them? Because a lot of others have explored them and found the richness in this world as a result of doing that. Marianne, how do people get your book?
Well, it's on Amazon. In fact, it was named, it's only been out for a month, and it was named the #1 new release on Amazon in the spiritual self-help category. So, I mean, put out a book at the height of the pandemic, and it gets to #1. I've done very little PR, so I think a lot of people are searching. So this is the book. If you go on Amazon, you will see it. It's got a gold bow. It's very simple. I did not want anything to look new agey. And this is another example. This idea of a bow came to me. I thought, okay, this is a great idea. And the same with the title, The Gift Within Us, because basically people, unfortunately, there is a stereotype about intuition, as I said, women's intuition, or it's silly, it's degraded. No, it is a key for many very successful people. This is one of the things that they have tapped into. They know this, and it's not silly at all, and it's very accessible. So yes, if you go on Amazon, just look up the Gift Within Us or Marianne Bohr, and the book will come up.
I love it. Wow. Well, listen, we got a little shaky start, but we finished really strong. So I really appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I'd love to have you back because I love your message. So we'll do that if we can. That'd be awesome. Thank you, Marianne.
I'd love you. Ken also sending me your book.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. And good. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy it. And I hope everybody tunes in and starts to understand that they have this access to this divine, really brilliance, and their lives can improve if they just tap into it.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. What a brilliant message. Thank you so much. All righty. Well, I have my next guest coming in the studio. But before I get to my next guest, I want to give a little shout out to a group that is close to my heart. It's called Women's Wisdom. They've been around since 1991. And it's women empowering women in business and friendship. And this organization is an organization that truly does inspire, empower women by bringing in celebrity speakers. They have online networking events that take place twice a month on Thursdays at 11 o'clock Pacific. So you can come in and meet new people from around the world, business entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur and you're a woman, pay attention. This is really a great group, and I hope you'll check them out. Again, womenswisdom.net, womenswisdom.net. All righty. Well, I'd like to bring in my next guest. Hopefully I see her in studio. I don't see her video yet, but hopefully she'll turn that on in a second. Rebecca Massoud. She is the creator of Speak, Shine, and Sell. She's an award-winning marketing expert, and she has been doing soul-inspired branding, which is her passion, for over 25 years. She's worked with various marketing leadership roles in high tech, nonprofits, startups. She's done the whole gamut, and she's one of the best in the business. Rebecca, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Love
Wow.
Voices of Courage.
Well, yes, voices of courage, and you have a courageous voice. How I always like to get with what's going on today with COVID and isolation and so much controversy in so many different areas. How you handling it all? How you doing?
I would say, gratefully, I'm handling it very well. Yes, I feel very extremely blessed that already my business is online. And so I was already working from home and doing all my client and group sessions online through Zoom. And, I miss the face-to-face interaction. And of course, I've got now my husband and son home. So we're tag teaming quite a bit and doing some homeschooling. And yeah, it's a lot. And I just feel so grateful and blessed because I know there's a lot of people really, really struggling out there, and my heart goes out to them. So I'm doing what I can to show up and be of service and support those that are in need while also serving my clients.
Well, I love this show, and I love I don't know if you got to hear my first guest, Marianne Bowen, but she was talking about the intuitive voice and the voice of getting in touch with that voice. And you help people to give voice to their dreams, give voice to their speaking voice, right? How did that come about for you?
Well, I caught the tail end of your last guest, and it actually started really with listening to my own inner voice. And I had this, I was at a time in my life, it was 8 years ago, and I was working in a full-time job, marketing director position. It was a great job in many respects. It looked excellent on paper, and I wasn't happy. I was not fulfilling my dreams. So I needed help. So I went out, I got support saw a counselor. And I remember that day sitting in her office, and she was like, "Rebecca, you've spent all these years helping other people be successful. It's your time. It is your time." And what I realized is I had been nurturing this dream of being an entrepreneur for almost 2 decades. And so that day, sitting in her office, I finally said, yes, I'll do this. I'll do this business. I don't even know what the business is going to be, but I'm a yes. It is time. It's my time.
Well, so, the show's Voices of Courage. How did you find that courage to do that? Because a lot of people they get insights and they don't follow through.
Great question. I was in a lot of pain, and pain is motivating. And I didn't want to be where I was anymore. I was physically just very, my body was just in complete knots, feeling stressed, working 50 plus hours a week, had a young child, and I would say probably suffering more emotional pain than anything. And I know myself, I'm a happy person. I'm an optimistic, happy person. So if something isn't going right, and I'm very motivated. Pain is a motivator to like, okay, what do I need to do here? So I got help. I think that was the first step, is I can't do this on my own. I reached out for support. And then it was like the only thing I knew to do, the only step I knew to take once I said yes, sitting in my counselor's office that day, is to call up my boss the very next day and say, I need to cut back my hours. And miraculously, they went for it. It wasn't immediate overnight thing. It took a number of months to kind of do some unwinding, but it was just like, that was the first step that I knew to take. And I've learned over the years in studying success principles and law of attraction and different spiritual laws of success that we don't know the whole way. We never have the map for how it's all going to turn out with our dreams. And it's a matter of really listening to the inner voice and taking the step, even though it feels like I'm walking blindly. But I just kept taking steps and taking steps and taking steps. And miraculously, things opened up. And within a month and a half of saying yes to the dream of having my own business, I'm now sitting in the LAX Marriott Hotel and getting my first coaching certification. 8 months later, I have my business. I started it full time. I had left the full-time job and was able to launch my business. And what I discovered in that launching period is that speaking is the best way for me to get in front of my ideal clients, to get known, to get to know my audience and have them get to know me. And so I learned that speaking was a way for me to grow my business from nothing.
Well, I know, I know you, and I watched you. I've seen this over the last 5 years. I've seen the transformation from that person that decided to make the changes that you had, and then step into 100% into this speaking, and put yourself in a lot of very uncomfortable speaking positions to grow yourself. And I for one have seen the power of your voice and how many other women now that you've helped empower to get their voices. And I guess my question is, where did you, because we're listening, a lot of people listening to us right now that are just going through this transition. Mm-hmm. That part of finding your voice, where did you find it, and where did it come about for you?
Well, there's two things that are coming to mind. So there's two words: self-trust and self-compassion. So self-trust. And this has been a very intense journey for me, the journey of self-trust. And it's here being able to trust what I received, like your last guest was talking about, trusting that inner wisdom, the voice that says, no, go this way, not that way. The wake up voice, for example, after I said yes, I was sitting in my counselor's office, said, yes, I'll start this business. I didn't know what the business was, but I said, okay, I'm doing this. 2 weeks later, I'm lying in bed and I hear a voice. My own voice, maybe, we'll see. And it said, what about coaching? It was just this very, not yelling at me, just a very soft, easygoing voice, no pressure. And I've learned that when there's a voice that's no pressure, that's just, hey, let's just consider this possibility. That's the voice I want to pay attention. If it's saying, you should be a coach, that's not the voice to pay attention to. So I listened to that voice that was just very, hey, what about coaching? And that very that morning, I went to go check my email, and there was an email with a subject line, have you thought about being a coach? This is for you. That very subject line. And that led me to do my first coaching training. And it was literally like that. So it was trusting. I say the should voice. If you hear the should, you should do this. You should be more visible on social media. You should, whatever, the should voice, that is not the voice of inner knowing, I believe. That is some outside, or the inner critic, or some outside expert voice that we're listening to. So self-trust was number one. This is new for me, is the self-compassion. Not that I haven't practiced self-compassion, but it's the awareness that in order for me to get out and speak on a regular basis, I have fears around speaking, just like most everybody in the world. Public speaking is the number one fear. And to really give myself the opportunity to get out there and speak, I also must have a lot of self-compassion, because it's vulnerable to put yourself out there. And I struggled with being seen and hiding out and holding back my voice for so long. And compassion is the key.
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? Wow, you're taking me on a journey today, a journey into the inner mind of the successful entrepreneur, and I'm just really loving it. And I love the way that you're weaving in that intuitive part of yourself so that others can learn from that. You know, one of the things you have come to know is that your mission is to help women entrepreneurs to begin speaking, to create more income, to have the clients that are their ideal clients show up for them. If somebody's listening to this today and they're being touched by your message of a heart, what's their first step to do this, Rebecca?
Well, I would say there's the practical outer step of create your signature talk, which I am so happy and blessed that I get to do that with with my clients and teach workshops around that. So there's the very practical outer step of get a talk together, create it. I offer a structure, step by step, how to put that together. And at the same time, you want to do the inner work. And because you can have the perfectly formulated talk, you can follow all the templates that many of the experts teach. And this is where you really want to fall back on your own knowing, your own intuition about what is yours to say. So create the talk and then go out and start delivering it. Practice speaking over and over and over. That's exactly how I got started. I said yes to every speaking opportunity that came my way, whether it was my ideal audience or not. So I spoke to lots of rooms, Rotary Club and the Kiwanis, and I joined a networking group so that every single week I was standing up in front of a group and speaking. And so I believe that, a lot of entrepreneurs think that, I have to get the talk fully together and fully practiced and fully polished before I can go out and speak. And I say use those real-time opportunities as your practice time, because then you get a lot of information, you get feedback, and you're able to then feed that into your talk and make it so much better. So practice in real time with real people, not just in your living room. I mean, do the living room practice too. My husband is my best audience for that. But take it out on the road. And like you said, we've known each other for many, many years. And so you saw me in those early days of practicing and failing and just, trying to get the words out, struggling with the words. And I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And it just gets easier.
Well, it does get easier, and if somebody, a lot of people are going to pivot their businesses right now. I get that. I just looked on the unemployment figures right now, and usually the statistic that I get from the government every quarter, it shows that we've grown in employment by anywhere from 150,000 to 200,000 people. I got the report last night. We're down 22 million down right now, 22 million people out of work right now. A big percentage of those people don't have their jobs. They're not going back to the jobs. They are going to become entrepreneurs. And I think people like yourself can really help people to step into that place as an entrepreneur. So we've got some time in the interview left, but I want to give people I want to do two things. I want to tell them how to get a hold of you, but after that, I'd like you to tell people what was that voice that maybe stopped you from going into your brilliance quicker, right? I think sometimes we have that. Now, I'm assuming that that voice was there for you because it's for most of us. What was that voice? And let's talk about that, the success stoppers that could stop a person from really doing their dream. So let's give me your information first, and then we'll come back to that. Okay.
All right. Yes. So the best way to get in touch with me is you can go to my website at RebeccaMassoud.com, RebeccaMassoud.com. And my last name is spelled Massoud. So it's RebeccaMassoud.com. And is this a good time to tell about my workshop that I have, a virtual workshop, or should we save that for later? All right, I'll just share about it. It's I offer a workshop called Speak, Shine, Sell, where I teach women entrepreneurs how to create their client attracting signature talks. So I offer this in person and online, which right now that's what we're doing, is pretty much everything is online. So you can check that out at speakshinesell.com. And I know Ken asked me another question. So
yeah, the other question I was asking you was about the success stoppers of when people start out on their path to be an entrepreneur, and then that mind kicks in, right? Some of the things that might stop an entrepreneur from moving forward with their business, or becoming a speaker, an author, a trainer, right? Yeah. What is that?
Well, it's the inner critic, and I absolutely have it. I know almost everybody on this planet has the voice of the inner critic. Mine particularly is a strong one. And you know about the inner critic, Ken?
I know about the inner critic. Yeah, I actually named my inner critic Benny, so that I would, when Benny showed up, I'd realize that Benny was there, and I gave a friend of mine permission that, hey, if you see Benny show up, tell me about Benny.
Yes. So I've learned to befriend my inner critic. And that it's not I don't want to, it can, like, the inner critic can be bully, but I don't want to bully the inner critic back. And so I've learned to give it a voice, let it be heard. I put it in a container. I actually, write it out in my journal, and let the inner critic out. And then once I just give it a voice, then I let the voice of love out, unconditional love. And that is, so I speak to that part that is feeling hurt or scared, and is comparing myself to other coaches, or why am I not doing enough, or what's wrong with me? So those voices that I'm not the only one. I think these are universal voices that are just out there that we grew up with, that continue to reign in our lives if we give them power. And so it's like just pulling the plug on their power. And I find that the voice of compassion, unconditional love, is the one I bring in to really kind of let that voice just sit down and calm down, and also find out what it might need. And there might be some little missing piece, or it's like the inner child is needing something. And so that's a dialogue that I'll have in my journal. Yeah. And I recommend it for everyone.
Well, okay. So the reason I wanted to go down that path with you, that inner critic path, is because what you teach is, I think fear of death is more prevalent in most people's mind. They'd rather die than be on stage. They'd rather die than speak. I don't know if that's changed over the years. I don't think it has. A lot of people really have fear of standing on stage. So how do you help entrepreneurs, women specifically, shine on stage and stand out as a speaker?
Well, first of all is letting them know, and really letting them know that they have a voice, and that their voice is important. and that they have a message. So many women entrepreneurs want to communicate their message, and they may be introverts, or they think, oh, I have to be very outgoing and have a very charismatic personality to be on stage. And it's actually not true. Some of the most compelling, dynamic speakers and effective speakers that draw people to them, that get clients and grow their income from speaking, are introverts, or maybe they're considered what I called ambiverts, which is a combination of introvert, extrovert. I consider myself an ambivert. And so it's really about, and I lost my train of thought, but
well, it's you were going down that train of thought about telling people, you know, how to really get you there, you know, on stage. And as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, is there something that an entrepreneur, a speaker can do right now if they're in lockdown to start that process of tuning into themselves? I don't know, it's speaking in front of a mirror, or, you know, get naked and start talking in front of a mirror. That'll probably,
okay,
probably
maybe
get there, right?
All right. So here's a great example. So I want to get to that question, but I want to go back to what just happened. So I lost my train of thought in that moment. Here we are on live StreamYard, streaming on Facebook, streaming everywhere, and I lost my train of thought for a moment. So that happens as speakers, and that's a lot of what holds us back. Is we're fearful that, oh my God, what if I freeze on stage? What if I forget what I'm going to say? You know, so all those what ifs. And really, what I love to share with my clients and my community is that it is so not about perfection. It's truly more about the connection than anything. And we're all human, and we make some mistakes, and we're not perfect, and we lose our train of thoughts, and we flub over our words, and truly, it's about being home more so than the words you say. It's about being fully home and present in your body, being in the present moment, and that conveys the energy of that is. 90% of, you know, of our word, of what we speak and share about isn't so much the words, it's about the energy and
right. Well, listen, I want to say this. That was beautiful. You took that moment and turned it around. I do remember interviewing a guy by the name of Neil Donald Walsh, and Neil and I were talking about being on stage, and he says, I use every if the screen falls, the picture falls down behind me, he said, if I trip on stage, it doesn't really matter. It's all part of what's going on. Yes. And that's how I convert it into making it entertaining and fun. And thank you for doing that with us this morning and giving us permission not to have to be perfect. I think that was a great learning experience.